just as soon as I know we're rolling here, guys. How y'all doing, guys? I've been a little busy this morning, but I think I'm all right. How y'all doing? I've touched up my screens a little bit. I kind of liking this Streamlabs thing here. Yeah. All right, guys. It's doing real good. We're just checking the stream here. I just set up my new elements on my stream. So what you're looking at is my hard work. Partially. You remember, it's not, I don't own DragonLance, obviously, but it looks pretty good, don't it? Not bad at all, huh? Yep. Alright, guys, I've got this thing set up to how I want it now. And it works, and it's good, and it's awesome. Okay, let's see here. Yep, it's all good. Alright, guys. What you think, what you think, what you think? Looks pretty good, don't it? Yeah. Absolutely impeccable, guys. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, guys. Yeah, I've got my screen set up. I got the stuff set up like I wanted on Twitch, so I'm doing pretty good. All right, guys, let's run a game. All right. Okay, let's see here. Come on. This can be a problem. Oh, come on, you bastard. Shit. Wait a minute, guys. There we go. I'm sitting here fucking with my menus here. I'll get it. No, you're using screen capture instead of game capture. It's not capturing the game. Game capture's right there. I don't know what the fuck's going on with that. I ain't figured it out either, but I ain't worried about it. There we go. Hey, I'm having fun. You can leave me alone. I know. Find the edge of that damn thing. Question is, I gotta find it. Whoops. I'm trying to fit it in my screen here, guys. Shit. Shit. When I get it situated here, guys, I'll get it when I'm happy. That looks good. I think that'll do for what it is. Shit, I forgot the boxes overlap. Whoops. Well, shit, if you can grab it. Shit. Wait a minute. Oh, duh. That's why you can't move it. You don't have it unlocked, idiot. I'm getting it. I'm getting the hang of it. We're getting it right, y'all. Oh, yeah. There we go. That looks good. Actually, I need to get it right below that word DragonLance's. There we go. Right about there. There we go. Fuck it, we're going to move it within the margins there. Damn it, come on. Shit. Okay. That looks good. That looks good. Okay, I like that. I'm chuffed with that. Y'all all right with that? I'm all right with that. I think it looks good. I think it looks damn good. Okay, we ready? We ready. We ready to fucking rock and roll. Move this son of a bitch over. Oops. What am I doing? Okay, I have. Okay. Oh, duh. Here I was. I had the sound off on it. You couldn't even hear it. Okay. You hear me, but you couldn't hear it. Okay, I got you. I'm well chuffed with that. Yep, this is just a setup stream. That's what this is. It's just to get me affiliated with the equipment and whatever. But doing all right. Like I said, that's just me trying to get my bearings and get my stuff set up to where it actually looks pretty good. And so far, so good. I'm actually quite well with it. I'm well chuffed with it. Yeah, buddy. don't know if Margaret Weis has played any of these computer games or not. I'd say she probably has. I don't know what she thinks of them, but you have to ask her. I really don't know, to be quite honest. I didn't, you know, hey. Okay. Look at anybody coming in, but like I said, this is pretty damn cool. I like this. This is working well. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If she wants a dog, I'm gonna learn to bark. It works well. Damn cat got bee stung yesterday, or day before yesterday. Fun, not. Well, ain't that something? I don't know if I got any watching, but I got me watching. Ain't that good? I'm pretty sure I can use the DragonLance logo because I'm not monetized. See, other role-playing groups using it all the damn time, so, and they're monetized, and I'm not. So, And there they go. Yeah, they probably could if it was monetized, but I don't think so. I don't. Alright, there we go. Bring them their jelly. Bring them their royal jelly. Okay. You gotta stay away from that dragon. these bills. Alright. I'm gonna call that one a day. Alright. We'll close that one out. Okay, guys. We're gonna take a little bit of a break. Oh, but I'm just absolutely enjoying the hell out of this right here. Absolutely wonderful. Alright, guys, I'll be right back. I'm going to get me something to drink, and I'll come right back.
Tars, don't let go. Tanis' voice, then Laurana, the Flint, then Kaamorn, then Tika, then Kitiara, then Racelyn, then Astrid, then finally his mother Vorlo and even Burfoot too. All of their voices said the same thing. Don't let go. I'm trying, I'm okay really. Oh my, I feel a little bit queer, and not at all right just now. Tasselhoff squeaked, but the obvious was far from okay. I had this dream once, really bad dream in Tarsize. Silvernesti. Wait, I never went to Silvernesti, did I? It was haunted. Tika, she fell. I was opening a lock. I got in a hurry and this pin went in my finger. It didn't hurt, but then it did and I felt my heart doing just like it's doing now. Oh, dear. Tars blinked and quizzically thought to himself how he could possibly let go of anything, because he really wasn't holding on to anything in the first place. That insinuation also galled him, because his companions over the decades had constantly shouted at him, "Tars, let go of that. Tars, put that down. Tars, put that back." So much that it was normal conversation for every human or demi-human that wasn't a Kender to regard him with at least every 5 minutes in a conversation, no matter what he was doing. At this present time, he wasn't doing anything but lying on his side on a cobbled street. Only this street cobble felt weird to the touch, like it was vibrating ever so slightly, and it was warm, but the surrounding area around him wasn't. It was raining heavily. He was laying flat on his face staring into a large puddle of water, the reflections of 2 figures standing over him, but they weren't the ones telling him to hold on or not let go. No, they were having a very intense and heated, but subtly quiet argument, and regardless of whether Tasselhoff felt like his brains were leaking out into his shoes, there was no indication they gave brain vermin's ass about his condition. He tilted his head to notice he was in an alleyway, and across that he could see what looked like a street, all going uphill. It even felt like the ground he was lying on was on an incline. Oddly enough, the puddle in front of him wasn't on flat ground either, but it was full of standing water and wasn't emptying at that angle. How could that be possible if everything is slightly going uphill? There were cobbles to indicate a street. The place stunk like an alleyway. Maybe he was in a city somewhere. Any place was better than Strahd's castle. Tars could honestly say he never wanted to go back to that stuffy, arrogant bully's home anytime soon if he could avoid it. He'd never detested a human so much in his life. What a lying piece of refuse. Wait, oh dear. Fizban was going to be irritated that Tars had accidentally snapped the stem off of Halfling's pipe that he'd borrowed from Uncle Trapspringer, even though it was originally meant as a gift for Fizban. Tars had just forgotten, until he'd been reminded in Magda's Vistani camp that he had it and to light the beacon, my boy. I'll be able to see it sure enough from where I am. I can't do much here to bring you home. You've got 1 portal key. That Racelin fellow is bad news. Don't expect him to help you out. That's not really his job or concern at this point. But he's the only other person that can get you out of there if he's inclined to do so. Once you've found Tanis and Laurana, get out of there as quick as you can. You might not be able to save Ticklemop. She like that nasty dwarf Azrael have been corrupted by the negative planes and have been in Sithicus far too long. That holy sack tied with reins will work, but she will most likely try to kill you. No, spare the grief and end her torment if you must. That creature's own hoopak you possess is enough to end her torment. That poor creature, I regret it so. I let it wander lost into the mists of Ravenloft. I failed, I am so sorry. Ticklemop. Tasselhoff, you must understand, she can only be free of Barovia if her chain is severed. She's trapped, she wanted to go home. Strahd lied to her. Soth lied to her. The mists of Ravenloft hold ye in their cold talons. I don't feel so worried since you Kenders are immune to fear, and it's one tool that Big Bully von Zarevich thinks he can use on unwary travelers from my neck of the woods, HMMPH. We'll show him, but first things first, we must attempt to bring you home. That pipe. This pipe? Tars asked sheepishly. Oh, I am so sorry, Fizban. Uncle Trapspringer said I was supposed to give this to you after we found it in the chest we finally dug up from the Spelljammer's wreckage. I wasn't going to sell it or give it away, Fizban. I don't even smoke. Never mind that. That thing is called a pipe of antediluvian knowledge. It's a very powerful artifact, not usually for Kender, it's meant for wizards. Now be careful, my boy, because the way it works, well, maybe you don't need to know how it works. It just works. Anyway, once you find a way to get in front of Strahd, and do not give him the pipe and ask him if he wants to smoke it. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't smoke it either. Just light the pipe, like a beacon on a watchtower. Let the magic do the rest. Fizban mumbled something to someone Tars, and Astrid couldn't see in the fishbowl, distorted starry depths of the Vistani seer crystal off to the side. Let's hope it doesn't blink him off to Akron or Avernus. DM's note. The Pipe of Antediluvian Knowledge is a magic artifact that works kind of like the machine Darkseid had that Batman used to ask the true identity of the Joker, and it answered back with a which one. There are 3 foot, this artifact works similar. A person within ANY game world or realm can ask a single question about anything and get a definite answer. The only downside is if you inhale and fail a save versus spell, as per DM's choice. Fail the check, and your PC instantly goes insane, loses all cognitive stats, and becomes a vegetable. Antediluvian, as I understand it, is a term meaning before the flood, or a colloquial term suggesting Stone Age history going back to the roots of all time and space for the answers. Tars doesn't smoke, he never smoked. The pipe is literally used at this point as a plot device to figure out how Fizban managed to locate Tars after being thrown into Sigil by Strahd, but Fizban now has a challenge on his hands. Taking a Kender outside the bounds of Kryn space has adverse effects. Tars is dying, and unless Fizban finds a way to sustain the poor Kender's life, his brains will leak out into his shoes. Tasselhoff, please don't let go. Tika, then it was Astrid's face appeared in the puddle crying at him. Was she upset he took her cookie jar? No, she's upset because you're hurt, you idiot. Look at you. You made Astrid cry too, you let Raistlin kill Ticklemop. Pez might wanna punch you in the mouth for upsetting Astrid, oh dear. Put that back, don't let go. Tars thought of indignantly arguing with the fevered apparitions of his former companions' voices, but something felt awfully wrong, like he was slowly losing himself and turning into a puddle himself, and it would slide down into the cobbles and dribble down into the depths of Undersigil. You've done it now, Fizban. Fizban. That's not a name, you silly old fool. How dare you embarrass me? Would I proclaim to the other powers of the multiverse and the planes, my adversary and eternal nemesis is a befuddled old wizard who loses his memory, and does good to keep from shitting his own robes. This is the ultimate insult. You have trapped me along with you within the city of doors. I hate you. I had no desire to come here, yet you drag me along. To what end and purpose, you old fool? Do you not know this is where Eoska was destroyed and sundered? We are not as so confident within our own realm to be seeking an audience for our conflict among the denizens of the plains. You know as well as I, we do not rule here. I have to get him out of here. This time Tars heard a voice. It really was Fizban, only this time, he was talking all serious and not like a befuddled old wizard anymore. I'll find you later, not that I want to again. Tars felt arms pick him up off the cobbles, but at this point he felt himself go slightly even weaker, as he struggled to focus on the person Fizban was talking to in the alleyway, because it was now raining so hard he struggled to hear what was being said, and the rain was coming down, so hard Tars found it hard to look up, because this rain smelled nasty like it had been sitting in the puddle, and it was falling so hard it was stinging his eyes and ears and falling into his mouth and making it difficult for him to speak. Your arbiter of justice is most likely in the hands of the Abishai, or the Mercy Killers now. I don't care what filthy up to no good business you choose to get up to on your own. Times, you're as much to blame as me. I have to get this little one somewhere. Safe. Safe? In Sigil. The voice mocked him. The Lady of Pain knows well who crosses into her domain, Paladin. You have no more power here than I. You are weak here, defenseless. A mere petitioner, who travels the plains, could best you now without even the slightest clue of who you are. You simple silly old fool. Do you think the highest of the elder gods would care about our squabbles now? Soth and Strahd now locked in an indecisive struggle, as the nebula seeks to engulf the planet that I helped create, and one which I will retain rule of again. You've done us no favors. That remains to be seen. Don't you chide me with your abrasive tone, Tacitus. You're as much in the soup as I am with this one. Go find your arbiter, and then we can get back to our respective circles in peace. Fool, do you think this will be that simple? As we speak, legions of Cornugans and Lemma and Bartezu. They smelled our arrival. They may not see to attack me. After all, I am important in the blood war, but you and the Kender, well. What do I care if they soon eviscerate you and drag you back to Karchery as a trophy? I will subtly slip away, and find my way back to Krynn, and leave you to deal with all of them. Fizban. Tars looked up at the old wizard cradled in his arms. Where are we? It's good to see you, but I'm... Tars coughed. Something is wrong. The Kender held his own hand up to look at it. He could literally see through himself. The Kender looked at his own chest, and there he could see this bright glowing green and blue light coming off his whole body. But it was like it was being drawn away. Like pieces of himself were falling away, and drifting like smoke into the air and off into the weirdest looking sky Tars had ever seen, still somewhat confused about where he was. He was growing weaker by the second, and he looked again to see more of himself blowing away like dust in a breeze. Fizban, help me. His essence is weakening. The grey gem cannot sustain their mortal coils outside Krynn, you knew that. Let's be clear, Fizban huffed. I'm not doing this to help you, you old shrew. You've got your own challenge ahead of you. If they drag you off to Karchery, or Avernus to await trial, or if the lady mazes you, I'll have to find some bashers to get you out, and who even says I'd even want to? Go find your arbiter Racelin Magir. They've most likely tossed him somewhere it's more applicable to suit his alignment these days. You better be glad we didn't pop out at the Godsmen Foundry. You'd be sitting in celestial chains right now on your way to be judged and done away forthright. Don't you chastise me, you old fool. Go and attend to this pathetic creature, whilst I gather more information. You have me at an impasse, old man. I only pursue this as it is my control at stake. We are not allies. I care nothing for you, ever, but I will not let Strahd or Soth usurp my rule and destroy Krynn with no indication of understanding the power to rule over a planet and not ultimately destroy it. I want subservience and obedience, not oblivion. I want order and chaos balanced to my whims alone. I will not lose to a whelp, this Strahd. To think a mortal could best me, even one that thought he had transcended the bounds of time and mortality. Tars felt the venom drip out of the Queen's voice, and he ultimately knew for Tacitus it wasn't about absolving what was right. It was about absolute retribution for defying her and taking advantage of Sotha's madness in Scythicus to destabilize the Furies and wreak havoc among the lower realms. Fizban, Tars suddenly felt his vision swim and started to lose consciousness. You shrew, Fizban fumed. If this little one goes right now, so do you. A moment for the reply. Someone in this city has the means to sustain him long enough to get us home. Think of someone besides yourself for a change, wouldn't you? To the casual observer, one would view this as Tacitus and Paladine having an argument, while the little kid, Tars, can do little more than sit and listen to them sling barbs at each other. A perfect allegory for some people's experience in life with estranged family. Fall from grace. The dragon's shadow Fizban was conversing with melted its form to silhouette as a woman. Find a sensate among the many wards of Sigil, a succubi, fall from grace. If you must, she can help this creature. I would not. I'm glad it's not up you, you old shrew. What in the holy hell are you doing here? For spite, he said, wholly knowing Tacitus would bristle him for doing so with a mere thought. Tars coughed weakly and then really started breathing heavy when he saw more of his essence falling away. A sharp pain in his temples reassured him that was not the right thing to say to Tacitus. Despite this, as if one cue, an ominous howl of something far off in the distance indicated it was time to leave the immediate area. Fizban, not to be impatient here. Tars looked up as Fizban was already carrying him and heading out of the alley. Fiends and others are aware you are here now, go. I will deal with what comes this way. Begone, Fizban, seek out the order of sensates here in Sigil. Until then I shall dwell on another strategy to leave this place. We have no business here. I do not wish to be here, let me make this known to you. Don't you worry, Tasselhoff Barefoot, Fizban assured him wearily. Something in his tone sounded like he wasn't so sure this time. We'll fare better here than she ever could. She has to behave here, she doesn't get to do what she wants, this isn't Kryn. Don't you know that irritates her to no end? You'll see some of Sigil, my boy, but first we need to get you somewhere. Your brains don't dribble out into your shoes. There are these big nasty winged demons. Demons? Tars weakly brightened at the prospect of at least seeing some demons. What kind of demons? Never you mind, Fizban snapped. Those Abishai will drink your essence down, like a tankard of ale, and then pop your glowing yolk like a grape into its mouth and swallow it like a head of foam off your beer. That's not going to happen on my watch, but we must not tarry, now if I can just remember the layout of this place. It's been literally eons since I walked the streets of Sigil. Fizban can't find his hat half the time, and now his avatar is stuck in Sigil. I'm worried, Tars said. Mom's gonna be real mad at me that I let Raistlin kill Ticklemop, plus Astrid. Even if she's safe with Tanis, and Laurana won't forgive me for not bringing her along. You've got bigger fish to fry, Fizban wheezed as he shouldered the kender and kept moving. Don't you go all limp dead-boned fish on me. Tars looked up one last time into the sky before he passed out. He remarked that it almost looked like the lights he was looking at on closer inspection were coming from the houses and dwellings above their heads, like the city was looming around them. This place is hard enough to navigate as it is. I've not been to Sigil in eons. Remember, Barefoot, it's pronounced like Sigil, rhymes with giggle, and woe be the Burke who mistakenly mispronounces it in front of the Gunvners. Welcome to Sigil, city of doors. Most of them are locked, but they didn't exactly have Kender in mind when they built the place. Or maybe they did, which is why you're probably the first Kender to ever been inside the cage and not be immediately whisked out. Problem is you're from Kryn, and that grey gem is the only reason you exist. All your sand in your hourglass is blowing away, so to speak, and we need to stop that immediately. I just hope I can remember where those sensates are.
What you think, guys? We'll be right back. Okay. Alright, maybe this one ought to work. sure, because, yeah. Okay, guys, I'm talking to myself. I'm sorry. All right, guys. That looks good. Yeah, that looks real good. Thank you. All right, much better. Thank you.
Kaelin Burfoot is the name given to a human, half-Kender, once disgraced and redeemed, Solamnic knight recruit, whom would later become the paternal father who raised the Kender named Tasselhoff Burfoot. Kaelin's parents were Kyushu Plains people who wandered into Zacht Saroth long ago and never came back. As a child he was rescued from the dark depths by an unlikely band of Kender explorers and brought back to the surface to live with them as a child. The human boy later grew up and left home to join the Solamnic Knights on Sandchrist Isle in Urgoth. He still had nightmares about the black dragon Kisant. Later on he joined a garrison and became friends with a Kendermaid scout, most likely Tar's mother, who had known him as a child. Although there was no romance between the two, obviously one being a Kender of significantly older age than Kaelin, he admired her as a mother figure and they went on many adventures, as a recruit for the company. On a training mission, he once stepped on a burr in the dark, giving the whole platoon away. The company named him Burfoot for spite, and the name stuck. Tasselhoff once spoke of the half-Kender, who almost became a Solamnic knight. It is questionable whom exactly Tasselhoff's biological father was. All we know is that somehow he met that Kendermaid scout, and they had a baby. Tars and his parents became separated, nobody knows how. His mother describes it as, "A ship came out of the sky, he got on it and never told me where he was going. I hope he's okay, but we got lost. I had to go look for him and what I found, well. Tanis, it's good that Tars has found friends to keep his feet on KRYNN's roads. You miss your path, and it's a mess of a way getting back home. I've been there." The elderly Kendermaid sipped her tea noisily and stared at them through her spectacles, pausing to dab at the steam collecting on the surface, with a kerchief Astrid handed her. Looking closely, it might have not been steam, but tears welling up in her eyes, as if remembering something painful to talk about. "For me, I'm back on KRYNN where I belong, but you, my son, oh, will you ever find what you're looking for? Meet a nice girl like Astrid here perhaps. Or no, maybe your story begins differently. Mine did. I've seen many futures and pasts. It's all so confusing and makes your head spin around. Gracious for a Kender to be so flummoxed. I've seen the other side of the universe now, and it's so terrifyingly wonderful and horrible. but it's just like Fizban told you, my son, some doors they kept locked from Kender for a reason. Not that they shouldn't be opened or explored, but it helps to know which ones aren't a waste of your time. Time is important for you, the candle with the brightest light, and you've got to use that light within you to get you out of the darkest of places. It was at this time at an orphanage in northern Urgoth a few decades, precluding up to the War of the Lance. Kaelin was given charge to look after a young Kender child as a promise to a friend while She went to find out who took him, Tasselhoff's real father. At least that's what the hastily scrawled letter in the Kendermaid's handwriting that been significantly burnt and rendered illegible had implied. DM, note what if all this multiverse hopping around Tars actually did paradox and accidentally romance his mother to become his father. Kenders are known to mess things up on a monumental level. Actually, this is hogwash, but you see where this is going. Kaelin was given a young Kender infant barely a few months old to look after. Not knowing much about Kender, he did his best and raised the Kender as a human child. Kender babies mature at twice the rate human babies do. By the age of 3 of a human toddler, a Kender child is already walking and talking. Ancelonian Kender, depending on their region, have extremely coarse and thick hair that grows at an alarming rate. Kender are masters at maintaining and weaving their hair to accommodate this. Hilo Kender keep their kids' hair short, just to stop the siblings from setting it on fire or getting it caught in something. Kaelin found this out because he didn't often cut the child's hair, so it wore a topknot. The orphanage had given the child the name on the note left with the baby that said Kaelin. At the time little Tars didn't have a name and was apt on picking the right one to suit him. Tars says he changed his mind many times. Once while out walking around with the young Kender on his shoulders. Through a fair in northern Urgoth, a drunken barbarian and his wench bellowed at them when they saw the child's prominent topknot. Tassel. Horf. Tasselhoff. For once the humans were laughing and being amicable to this Kender child. It pleased the boy enough, he looked up at the man he called Dad and said, Tasselhoff, that is my name. And so the Kender learned to walk, talk, and read the maps he loved. Tars was an exceptional Kender, because he was raised around humans, who had in turn been around Kender enough to understand and tolerate them. On into his teens he found company among a diverse crowd of outcasts, who found their value in each other due to having one attribute the other lacked, but it held them all together. Strength in the circle, hoop of companions, or tribe, the analogy the Plains people often spoke of. Tars did indeed find his mother. She's old, hey I'm older too, and old Kender tend to be set in their ways. I didn't grow up with her, but she's still my mom. And when she talks about things I now understand why I think the same way sometimes. She still talks to me when she's not thinking about other things, but it's hard to hold her attention. She's like Tanis and Kaamorn, or any other human I've known. See that what was so special about my dad and yes my mom, and dad both served in a company with Stum's father. Yeah okay, maybe this man Kaelin wasn't my Kender dad, but he's still my dad, because he listens to me when he's smart. But he doesn't stay put for very long. Whole War of the Lance, I had no idea he was on Sandcrest Isle, and Fizban knew and didn't tell me, but told Dad everything about me and Tanis, and everybody about me breaking the dragon orb. Laurana and Flint met him a bunch of times and didn't even know it. He met Flint. How could I have not been there for that? And I'm still a little mad at him for not at least showing up for a bowl of soup. I know he got soup, because he never turns down soup. He just grabbed a trencher and went and ate it over by the Gold Dragon stable where they didn't want Kender messing about with the saddle buckles. But I remember waking up that evening during a nap on the battlements and finding this little toy in my hand I'd not seen since I was a young Kender, and a piece of parchment that said a barefoot through N through asterisk, and wouldn't you know it my knapsack was a little bit more full, come to think of it, with extra rations I don't recall borrowing or finding anywhere, and Flint said some night on the battlements gave him a nice piece of soapstone to whittle with. I don't know who this Kaelin is, but I'm assuming you are talking about my dad. He and my mother were technically never married, but they've been friends a long time, just like Tanis and Laurana, except once again, as Astrid explained to you, with her being an exceptional engineer that studied with gnomes. A big part does not fit into small part without adequate purpose, or means of integration a silly human cannot root with a kendikin. Yo silly boy ho ho ha, it does not fit, this part, ya. Nay it does not. Besides dear human boy, I knew you when you was a baby a squealing little human that go poo poo and cries even when Astrid and Pez make faces to cheer human baby up and then baby laugh, and then go poo poo again, and then cry. It's not want me to have kindling as they eat and poo poo twice as much. Tars purses his lips and tries to imitate a female Kenda's northern Agothian dialect hilariously. My parents travelled to Haven when I was old enough to walk with them and carry my own hoopak. The plainsmen were quiet around my parents, I guess, because Dad being human, and my Kenda birth mom, they know humans and Kendas aren't even remotely compatible. They didn't have a problem with my mother, but Dad once said he was of the plains people, just like Riverwind and Gold Moon, but it was so long ago, he didn't grow up with them, and he didn't feel like they wanted him there. I think I did tell Gold Moon once about my dad. She must have thought I was telling her a tall tale about the half-Kender, who almost became a Salamnic knight. But she smiled and said something to Tanis, while looking into the stars round the campfire. I remember Alonsha, she said. The tale of the lost son found again. When I asked Tanis about it later, I had to because Riverwind and Gold Moon were preoccupied, when I took the notion, and remembered to ask a tiny detail, and Riverwind chased me out of the tent despite Goldmoon saying the Kender, but like children. He does not know my love. Come back to bed as I'm sending him away now. Tars means no harm. This was followed by the comment from Tika and Kaa Morn. He does it to us all the time. Anyway, Tanis said it meant wayward son, or fortunate son, or prodigal son. He said that people find their way inevitably back to family no matter what, and that is true. When I left on my wanderlust, I knew I'd come back around. Someday, I just didn't know when. Anyway, Mom is not sure what happened to my Kender dad. We're always receptive to looking. Since I've been to Sigil and the Abyss both now, I can tell you dying once is just the beginning, but the wait is so boring, and it doesn't function like you'd want it to. Flint and Kitiara, they can't remember anything about me. Tar sniffles. I have to teach them all over again, who I am, which is okay, but gee, that's a lot of time. I've got so much story to tell, and it can take a long time to get it all, so I figure I tell the parts one remember myself, while I have time to. How did I get to Sigil? No, you say it like giggle. Did you know writing, just the word out on piece of parchment, makes the letters go all squiggly around the paper in a ring? Well, Sigil, it's okay. What little I got to see of it. See, when I got there I was not feeling good at all and thought I was going to die, and not in a pleasant, or even interesting way, but a sad kind of wasting and not at all heroic way. But anyway, it was kind of a trap, see, because it wasn't meant for me, but Fizban went in there and saved me and got me somewhere. My brains wouldn't leak out into my shoes, which while would be interesting to see for me, he said it wouldn't be interesting to let the rude 6 feet. Abishai, Fizban said it was a demon or something. Drink them like a tankard of ale, until the glowing bit of my soul pops like a grape in his maw. Those things belch when they talk, and you can't understand half of what they say with scales and the tongue, and Winged Lady Grace says it's mostly lies and untruths, because they are fiends and they are supposed to tell lies and untruths. Fall from Grace, have you met her? She said my kind were rare in Sigil. She said Kenders couldn't get into Sigil due to us being tied to the prime material by a grey gem, or some such. That's why I was horribly sick when I came in. Granted, the place stinks in places, and it's dirty and clean, and can be so many things at once, and tons of the most interesting people. Anna. Dakin, and 2 actually conversational, if not malevolent fiends who Takasis said were ingrate pathetic slimes. But she slapped both of them around, and not only did they like it. This neat blue flame popped up on one of their bodies, and now Athelgrin has been blessed if he hasn't been mazed by now. Something called the lady didn't want the queen making too much trouble according to Fisbin. On these streets amongst you primes and plain ass we are but just travellers along the great wheel. I Takasis, and I have walked these streets on a rare occasion, for this is the greatest neutral ground in the multiverse, for here we feel as mortals do, alive and dead. You can stand out in the street in a spot, and it will thunderstorm followed by snowflakes, but then it makes a bunch of mud and all the streets go uphill and the place does not move like a prime material world. That's what Fall from Grace called KRYNN, she said KRYNN has a bunch of moons and planets. But it's not just all planets. See, imagine if the darkness of the sky was just a big curtain, and if you pull it back. Maybe that's an even longer story. Fisbin told me not to worry too much about that because Kenders are little, and so we take care of the small things first. Oh, but trust me, it's neat though. Did you know there are these magic ships that float on anything? Anyway, Fisbin put this neat blue gem in my chest. No, it doesn't hurt. I can make it light up when I want it to. Watch this. Yeah. Okay, it's lit, but not as bright except when I feel a certain way. You know Astrid doesn't need one. No, cause of course she was born on the moons. She could have hopped around and got that business with Strahd settled before Raistlin showed up and killed poor Ticklemop. Granted, Ticklemop as a vampire was lonely as she was born before the cataclysm in a former life, but who knew that yanking her life soul out by the top knot would weaken the link Soth had to Sithicus? It wasn't the amulet in the wolf Ticklemop had found. It was Ticklemop that kept the whole thing together while Soth was stuck in the mirrors. Once Raistlin freed her soul, whoops, it caused a fracture, just enough to allow Soth to confront Strahd in Barovia. Strahd got mad. Raistlin got madder. I saw Raistlin take the staff of Magus and light Strahd up like a torch. It didn't kill him, just made him ugly and bigger and meaner. Enraged, immutated Strahd. See stats *DM. It was astounding to watch, because Strahd really is a horrible selfish monster, who didn't care about Kitiara, or Laurana, or Tanis, or me or Astrid, or even Soth. The big bully was just using Soth to claim KRYNN as another fiefdom in his boring, dismal, foggy, cold castle. You'd think that place was interesting, but it was full of rude ghosts and haunts. Strahd really is full of himself. He came riding up on a nightmare, which sorry to say I'd already been there and done that once before a long time ago, with that stinking waste of flesh Denzel *, with me being tied to the back of one. Strahd is a fat liar and thinks he's clever, and Raistlin knew he was telling a whopper when he tried to get us to remove Soth, but he wasn't intending to let any of us leave the stinking fog. He cast a spell, threw me and Raistlin into this big portal hoping it would kill us, and it almost did. Fisbin found me, and Takasis, well, even if she is the Queen of Darkness, she risked KRYNN being destroyed just to grab Raistlin in Sigil and get us home. Sigil is a big clock, like a caged clock. Fiends and Soth were going to trap Fisbin or Takasis in there so they couldn't get out, and then the Black Nebula would devour KRYNN like a grape.
I keep forgetting I have the mic turned off. Stay tuned, guys. Get you something to drink. We'll be right back. Okay, guys. Sorry about that. It just took me a minute. Hey, I'm still getting used to Streamlabs, so it's just taking me a minute or two to get acclimated. Before we round this out, guys, I'm trying to figure out. I've been streaming for about an hour and 24 minutes. Um, I'll probably go to YouTube here a little bit later to paint some minis, but right now I'm just using this. It's just to test everything out. Um, I wanted to show you all the issue of Dragon Magazine, if I hadn't talked about it before, where some gamers from Minneapolis and Minnesota, I do believe. Anyways, this was pretty much in the October. That October that this issue came out, I speculate I was when I went to go get those Dragonlance books. I had been introduced to that. Now, Roger Moore, I'm thinking it's Roger Moore. It's this issue. Most excellent. There we go, fellas. How's that? Pretty damn cool, huh? You can definitely read that. Oh, I love looking at these things. Here it was. Okay. Yep.
A. Fugitive. From. A Klingon. Chain. Was. Gang. Yes, as you can tell from the title, it is time again for the annual Gen Con Game Fair editorial. The glory, the wonder, the magnificence of the 1993 convention was rivaled in my mind only by the first 3 times I saw the movie Jurassic Park, the greatest American film since Citizen Kane to the Power of One. But more about that later. The following is a compilation of my 1993 Gen Con Game Fair experiences, culled from the smudged page of notes I took while incarcerated in cell number 1 of the Klingon Imperial Detention Facility, in the East Wing of Mecca's main hall. This sounds like I am making this all up, but I am not. We start with the con preparations. This year's Game Fair, among its billions and billions of other events and features, invited George Takei to come as one of its most special guests. George Takei, of course, is better known to Earth's tele-addicted population as Mr. Sulu of the Star Trek TV show and movies. The very thought that we would be able to get the Mr. Sulu to come to Milwaukee sent the hearts of every closet Trekkie at TSR and elsewhere into tachycardia. Interestingly, those who reacted most intensely to the news of Mr. Takei's arrival were women. Married women, included. Mr. Takei's arrival was part of Science Fiction Saturday, a wild day of SF fun featuring Joe Trimble, Jean DeWeese, and others, organized entirely by the incredible Sue Wine Line, about whom more later. Tuesday, August 17th, was spent hastily stuffing boxes of posters and supplies, and my adopted son, a mannequin, Bud, into my Geostorm, while at the same time trying to manage the production of 3 magazines at once. Failing miserably at the latter, I left work at the end of the day for the pre-convention warm-up party at Margaret Weis barn house. I was able to get Bud out of the car and upstairs to the main party itself, just minutes before those fun-loving gamers from Minneapolis and Canada set Margaret's deck on fire. By way of explanation, I have to say that it was sort of a guy thing. The deck caught fire around some candle dish Margaret was burning to keep the bugs away, and all the guys on the deck stood around and watched it until Margaret came out and had a fit and asked someone to put the fire out. "Oh, okay," the guys said, and put the fire out. Margaret went back in the house and came downstairs to the den, where a bunch of other guys and I were watching Henry V on TV. It was the scene where the king is giving his Crispin's Day speech before the Battle of Agincourt. "They set my deck on fire," Margaret cried hysterically. "Just a minute," we said, still watching King Henry rally his troops. "It was on fire and burning," Margaret cried. "We'll be up in a bit," we said, still watching TV. You get the idea. When I finally went back upstairs, Bud was hanging over the deck balcony, probably as a result of smoke inhalation. I recovered him and we set out for home to await the coming of Wednesday, setup day, the day before. Thus we missed the test firing of Gary Pack's fireball wand from Margaret Weis Deck, the very same deck that was burned up a little bit earlier that evening. I understand that the after effects were quite remarkable. Plotting the downfall of humanity since 1990 Pagan Publishing Company slogan. The editorials I've written about the Gen Con Game Fair since 1987 generally feature the same themes, among them the ever-increasing size of the convention itself. This year was no exception. I arrived at Mecca Wednesday morning to discover that the exhibition hall had doubled in size from 1992, with booths spilling over into the east wing that was formerly used for gaming. I recall that 6 years ago, we could fit the art show, a cafeteria, a stage, the TSR booth, and all the other exhibitors into the main hall, with room left over. Now the convention takes up 2 entire city blocks in multi-story buildings, and it is still growing. Set up for Fortress TSR, the giant 3-story castle in which our products were demonstrated and sold, was done in sweltering heat with no air movement. Turning off the air conditioning saves money, I hear. Everything was filthy and dirty. Fellow slave or co-worker Julia Martin stopped at one point to look at her hands and shirt and make the day's most astute observation, "Oh, look, we've made mud." I noted that Fazer Corporation had decided to build its own Parthenon to rival TSR's efforts, and booth giganticism was evident elsewhere, too. Among the more remarkable exhibits this year were the hearse, obelisk, and casket at the White Wolf booth. The casket had to be removed, the MPG net and Genie Parthenons, the latter with Thrustmaster Air War video pods, and a life-size alien, as in Sigourney Weaver, in a sci-fi museum, Alien Archives. I also noted a 10-long, 25mm starship layout at TSR's Buck Rogers booth, a selection of battle axes, and 2-handed swords on sale at the museum replicas booth, no sharp edges, thank heavens, and a premiere copy of the Kill Everything * solo board game from Crunchy Frog Enterprises. I later saw the computer game area, which had several massive computer simulations, including 2 virtual reality games and a huge, 8-player, real-time Battletech * link-up, that put all pre-Vice efforts to shame. The hilarious and exciting Battletech videos were great, too. Cheech Marin as a Martian death race pilot. Meeting friends is the best part of the convention. I had a nice chat with Julie Guthrie, miniature sculptor, though the joy of the occasion was dampened a bit by the news that she was still recovering from being knocked off the road by a taxi while bicycling. I also had a nice chat with Steve Jackson, game designer, though the joy of the occasion was dampened a bit by the news that the Steve Jackson games booth had a foot massager unit, and TSR's booth didn't. The high point of the day was certainly when my fiancé, Gail, rescued me from the cavernous sweatshop of Mecca, and took me out for a Thai food lunch. It was marvelous, and the memory of it was not dimmed a few minutes after she dropped me back at Mecca, when she called in a panic and told me she de-locked her car keys in her car 5 blocks away while the engine was running. Would I run out there through heavy traffic and open her car with my keys, please? 3. Now we come to Margaret, the approach able for Weis's second party, held in the Mark Plaza Hotel Wednesday night. This is the party where by tradition many things occur of a nature that I cannot discuss in this magazine, without risk of legal action and the collapse of the gaming industry. After a prolonged discussion at the door about the appropriate number of secret knocks I had to give to identify myself, I was allowed in and was immediately made part of a heated round-table discussion of whose fault it was that a 1-foot square section of Margaret Weis Deck was allowed to burn out of control for almost 15 seconds while a bunch of guys stood around and watched it. It was obvious to all that it was Margaret's fault, since she was the one in whose car a bottle of vodka exploded while no one else was around but her. But we humored her for a time, because she is Margaret, after all. After one too many Mountain Dews, thanks, Buffy, I left for home, thus missing by scant minutes a series of jointly sponsored Canadian, Minnesotan, Ohioan paramilitary exercises about which the less said, the better. 5 The survivors seemed to have enjoyed themselves, anyway, which was good since the next day was the day of doom. Button scene at the con. Thursday dawned a little overcast but pleasant. I arrived at the convention with a request from Gail to call her at some point so we could work out dinner and visiting arrangements, but things were already a little hectic. Almost every booth had a VCR ad tape running, TSR had 2, last-minute rearrangements of product were being made, and the convention's pawn patrol was making the rounds, asking dealers to please cover up the superabundance of uncovered feminine mammaries that appeared on the artwork in many booths. We knew that any convention, with Mr. Sulu appearing, was going to be a big one. Early projections put attendance at the con in excess of 16,000. There was time, of course, for Margaret Weis and her mob to come by the booth and wave hello to me. I smiled and waved back, at which point Margaret yelled attack. And everyone threw paper airplanes at me and fled. I supposed it had something to do with my earlier visit to the booth where Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman were to sign books. Seeing that the booth lacked color, I decorated it with a leftover Buck Rogers poster and a note for visitors to ask Margaret about her next Greyhawk novel. 6. On the good side, Dragon magazine. Staffers Dale Donovan and Larry Smith arrived at the booth bearing a box full of the stick-on, 2 3/4 diameter holograms that will be appearing on the cover of Dragon issue number 200. These we kept in the booth and passed out to special people from other game companies, or who were our friends, or who did something nice for us. If you didn't get one, well, maybe we missed you. At 10:08 a.m., the doors opened and the gamers poured in. Someone gave me a bag of M&Ms, having remembered my winning in earlier Gen Con editorials about a lack of the same. The giver won 2 free holograms. Someone came by wearing a Jurassic Park t-shirt, who said he'd seen the film 3 times and thought it was a masterpiece of world cinema, certainly greater than The Birth of a Nation 7. He got a free hologram, too. Bob Salvatore, a author of Drow Tales, dropped by to show off a t-shirt he was giving Ed Greenwood, on which Ed's Wizard Sage Elminster is about to be stepped on by a giant foot. He got a hologram, too. Among the hundreds who flooded the exhibitionists' hall were the usual assortment of scantily clad barbarians and barbarianettes, braving the chilling cold of the now operational air conditioning in their leather fur bikini bottoms, and in the barbarianettes' case, tiny breast cup tops. The more interesting costumes included some remarkable Renaissance-style gowns and a couple of bards who played music for the masses as they wandered the endless corridors of Mecca. The bagpiper, however, was very unappreciated. Can't you imagine why? I must also mention the arena in the miniatures gaming hall west of the exhibition hall, which I toured briefly. Picture, if you will, a gaming table 50 feet long by 20 feet wide. Take a moment to pace it out in your backyard. I'd never seen the like of it. It was awesome. That evening, your Dungeon Adventures and Dragon magazine editors hosted a panel on what we were looking for from authors and one perspective. Writer gave me a £3 bag of M&Ms. I was pleased and gave him a hologram, though I was starting to think ID made a tactical error in complaining about not having enough M&Ms. After a full day of hard work, I drove home. I was vaguely aware that ID completely failed to call Gail, but I knew that somehow she'd understand. She is that kind of person. The only reason for time is so that everything doesn't happen at once. Buckaroo Banzai T-shirt slogan. I arrived at Mecca Friday morning with one sentence burned into my brain with a plasma gun: never forget to call Gail. Fortunately, my first stop was the RPGA Network breakfast, so I was able to console myself with a plate full of Excel-lent scrambled eggs, toast, muffins, and so. Dragon 7. 4.8 I spoke with a Desert Storm veteran about the joys of playing AD&D games in Iraq under wartime conditions, and Lauren Wiseman of GDW reminisced about the time he and a camera crew filmed a lady in her shower at 2 a.m. as part of a game advertisement. Write anything you say, Lauren. The RPGA Network gave me a nice clock reward plaque, though without batteries, and we all went back to the exhibition hall, where the guy in charge of the Capcom video game display gave me 2 bags of M&Ms. I gave him some holograms. Friday was pretty much a repeat of Thursday, though with more visitors. Lots of old friends dropped by the periodicals booth in Fortress TSR. Tia and Larry Uckay dropped in from North Carolina, hi. Caroline and Warren Spector from Texas, hi. Lisa Smedman from Canada, hi. And a couple named James and Cindy from somewhere else to give me another £3 bag of M&Ms, for which they received some holograms even though I knew my diet was doomed. Patricia Need Elrod, vampire author for TSR and other companies, signed a book for me, returning a favor I'd done for her years earlier by being her very first editor. I published a module of hers in Dungeon Issue No. 1, Assault on Eddie's Tone Point. More bards passed through the castle. I called Gail 3 times, but got no answer, and Chris Adams, artist for the Yamara strip, dropped by to let me know he hadn't been paid for the last 3 strips. I was forced to bribe him with some holograms and a full bag of M&Ms. Then someone named Kimberly came by with another bag of M&Ms for me, and I began to sweat. When the convention was over, I was going to look like a planet. So many pedestrians, so little time. Sticker on the side of a gamer's motorized wheelchair. Friday afternoon continued to be busy. 2 guys from Kaohsiung, the Call of Chulhu * game company, tried to mind control me with a humming electronic eyeball, but the confusion of the convent tie-on had already fried my brain. Rick Swan, game reviewer from Iowa's largest undersea city, Des Moines, came by, as did Roger Moore, first art director for this magazine. Both got holograms. Many past and current, and probably future, authors dropped in, such as Scott Benny, Steve Kurtz, Spike Y. Jones, Peter Berg, and Gregory Detweiler. Jim Atkins of TSR parried Ed around in his Strahd vampire costume, which fit him rather well. Perhaps in a related event, many people were heard howling like wolves through the exhibition hall. Margaret, the very friendly, Weis showed off her new golden chainmail blouse. I finally got Gail on the phone, but couldn't hear a word she said over the con noise, and everyone prepared for the evening's top-secret game designers party in the Hyatt. I was able to visit the art show briefly after a little friendly arm twisting and finger breaking by Liz and Gary Williams, who ran the show. The art was wonderful. It was marvelous. It was worth over $1 million. I was impressed, even if I'd seen a few of the pieces before on module covers. Artwork always looks better in real life, up close, particularly when it has dinosaurs in it, as a few pieces did. 9. I visited a few booths on the way out, including a stop at Mike and Lisa Pond Smith's place at our Talsorian Games, and I spent a moment or two at Margaret and Tracy's booth, where they were giving away free copies of Margaret's latest novel to a piddling crowd of about 675,000 rabid fans. Anything here worth reading? I asked casually, thumbing through a book. It gets awfully dull in the TSR booth. It wouldn't be so dull there if you print a magazine worth reading. Margaret sneered, as her lackeys hooted and scratched at their fleas. At least I didn't have pictures of my rear end appear in 2 consecutive Dragon magazine issues. I said good-naturedly, as I waved farewell, and returned to the booth. .10 I do so love meeting people. The hall closed at 6 p.m., and I went home to get Gail for the party. I want cheap food, lots of it, right now. T-shirt scene at the con. The top-secret game designers party was the best. It was loud, jammed with people, and had truckloads of food and drinks. I'd write more about it, but I don't recall much, because it was so hard to hear anything over the noise unless someone was shouting at you. Still, it was great. Jim Ward was a hit in his choir boy outfit, and I got to hear all about Sue Wineline's bogus journey. 11, hi to everyone I saw there. Especially artist Liz Danforth and Mike Stackpole, whose guest editorial in issue number 171 still draws praise from gamers. Gail and I left early, close to midnight, after I pried her out of the bar away from the British friends she'd discovered from TSR Limited in Cambridge. We went home exhausted just in time for Saturday. The horrors ravaged my Kea, and all I salvaged was this lousy shirt. T-shirt scene at the con. Before the doors opened Saturday, I wandered the exhibition hall to get a last view of things before the traditional Saturday gamer tsunami swept in. I went by Pagan Publishing to see their stuffed toy Chulhu dolls, by the Fazer Parthenon to see the gigantic Battletech playing table and 3 tall mech models, and by the 3 or 4 booths selling giant variant chess games, Super Chess, King S Chess, etc. I was wowed at the Capcom booth by the incredible graphics on their new Dungeons and Dragons video games, and I was glad that those games had not come out years earlier when the D&D game was young, or none of us would have gotten anything at all done. The most heartwarming sight at the convention was the fur-clad live barbarian baby in his stroller, drinking from his bottle, while his fur-clad barbarianette moth assorted product at a nearby booth. I also liked the title for the Weis and Hickman-sponsored Killer Breakfast, Bring Me the Head of Wesley Crusher. But the absolute best things at the entire convention, better even than the virtual reality games that were played non-stop upstairs until they threatened to drain power from all southern Wisconsin, were Horizon S painted vinyl models of the Tyrannosaurus Rex and Velociraptor from the greatest movie in the history of the galaxy, Jurassic Park. 12 They were just gorgeous. I would have sold my office staff for just the raptor. Perhaps I could make a deal on Dale and Wolf. At 10, the gamers filled the hall. I ate only M&Ms for breakfast, being too nervous to get a regular meal, which led to my being rather faint-headed and goofy as the day went on. Longtime friends Karen and Vince Strife came by, game designer Kim Eastland came by, but got to appear in a movie. My picture was taken for a travel magazine, and rumors of crazed Trekkie hordes rampaging through Mecca in search of Mr. Takei made the rounds. My son John appeared, and he and I got to test drive the Capcom video games. We killed the dragon. And I finally got to see part of the Dragon Strike video playing continuously in the TSR castle, enjoying one part, in particular. Maybe you can find it on your version. 13. It was a wonderful day. I was having a great time. Then Margaret Weis and the Klingons appeared. Button scene at the con. At first I thought it was sort of amusing and even appropriate to see Margaret Weis and her cohorts in the company of a continued on page 14. The 8th of October 1993. Pin back. There is lycanthrope Editorial. Continued from page 8. Squad of brutish Klingon thugs. Then the head Klingon read out an arrest warrant for me, charging me with flying a paper airplane off the balcony of the Hyatt Sev Errol years ago. 14. They produced plastic handcuffs and demanded I leave the booth. I stared at them as if they were crazy, which, of course, they were. Get serious, I said. I am not leaving to go anywhere. The Klingons nodded, fully expecting that reply, and immediately left. I laughed, but Margaret looked quite pleased. I discovered why when the Klingons appeared in the booth with me, having entered Fortress TSR through its undefended rear doors. They handcuffed me and dragged me away, and threw me in cell block number 1 of the Klingon Imperial Detention facility, where I was able to complete part of this editorial while awaiting my sentence to be completed. The Klingons were part of the Klingon Armada International, which does a jail and bail thing to support different Shori. Ties. Margaret and her friends had paid for me to be imprisoned, without trial or legal representation, to benefit the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin, which was a comforting thought up to the point where my own son, John, paid to have my sentence extended. This caused enormous hilarity for a crowd of about 100 busybodies with names like Buffy the Death Knight Slayer, Bob the Firestarter, and Margaret, always a joy, Weis. After suffering unspeakable torment, I was able to bribe a guard for $20 to have Margaret thrown into my cell and have me set free, whereupon I paid another $15, all the money I had left, for the Klingons to torture her. This the Klingons did with relish, singing several stanzas of their Klingon marching song until Margaret screamed in agony. It was lovely. 15. I got back at the booth just in time for someone named Jack to give me another bag of M&Ms. I knew I was going to die. Karen and Vince then found me again and took me out to get a couple of burritos, which saved me from eating more M&Ms, IOU. Later that evening I went to an SF seminar. On the way there, I saw George Takei, walking in the other direction. He looked happy, confident, and completely at ease. I heard later that he was one of the best special guests we'd ever had, and he was loved by everyone. And the Closet Trekkies did get to take him out for lunch that day. You could tell because their faces glowed for hours afterward. Sue Wineline, you're the greatest. I can't say much about the SF seminar except that we all agreed that it was fun screw up the lives of ignorant player char actors. Then I went home and stood in a shower for a half hour, trying to get the ache out of my legs and feet. One more day to go, just one more day. My notes on Sunday are very sparse. Seagulls flew over the city at dawn across a bright, sunlit sky. I felt a little sad that the convention would soon be over, and I went to the magazine booth with a sigh and a melancholy smile on my face. Then the Klingons arrested me for a second time. After the usual abuse and my eventual release, I wandered the hall to get my last impressions. I discovered that someone was selling cheesy little lead miniatures for the Macho Women with Guns * game, and former Dragon magazine staffer and computer whiz Joe Novak dropped by to show us what happens when you accidentally stick your hand in an experimental airplane's propeller. The reattachment surgery seems to have been a success, for which all of us, especially Joe, are very grateful. We didn't catch the 2-0 level thieves who sneaked in the back of Fortress TSR. We'll be waiting for you next time, however, or the guy passing out the phony $100 bills, ditto there too, but we all did get runny noses from the air conditioning. When the convention hall shut down at 4 p.m., everyone cheered and clapped for half a minute. Then we tore down the booths, packed up the product, and got ready to go home. Even Bud looked worn out. He's crashed on my office floor as I write this. It was the best Gen Con game fair there ever was. I hear that they're replanning an even better one next year. I don't see how they can do that, unless they bring the Klingons back and certain people I know are unavoidably detained and tortured throughout the convention. Or maybe they bring in some live raptors, or Rex, or even both. Or maybe I'll talk to the convention organizers and see what can be done. Congratulations to the entire Gen Con Game Fair staff for the work they put into making sure we had fun. And thanks to George Takei, and of course, the now horse Sue. See you there in 94, but please don't bring more M&Ms, just bring yourselves and have a ball. The 14th of October, 1993. Tyrannosaur eating a lawyer. The inevitable footnotes 1. Perhaps Jurassic Park was even greater, since Citizen Kane did not feature a tyrannosaur squashing a Land Rover. It sure worked for me. 2. We going to take him out to lunch, they would say, and we keep him away from all the Trekkies and talk about normal things. Then they would moan and close their eyes as if they were praying. 3. I did. She's done it before. 4. According to the description of her in the 1993 Gen Con Game Fair brochure. 5. Except perhaps in court. 6. This is completely untrue, but nothing will drive Margaret crazier more quickly, unless you say something about Missouri being on the wrong side in the Civil War. Do not do this if you want to remain her friend and avoid costly medical treatments. 7. Which did not, of course, feature a 8. It was the best food at the convention, unless you brought your own from home. You are warned. 9. But not enough for my tastes. 10. Hint. Get Dragon issues number 132 and 133 and look at the 1988 Gen Con brochures. It will take a few minutes, but it's worth it. 11. She was leaving to pick up George Takei at the airport when she suddenly misplaced her car in the Hyatt parking lot. She was picked up in a near-hysterical state by Barbara Young, who helped her find her car and thus save the Federation. George Takei's plane was late, anyway, so it didn't matter. 12. Gone with the Wind had Atlanta burning and that was nice, but did it have a single battle between a raptor and Rex? I rest my case. 13. It is the brief scene near the film's start where our publisher, Jim Ward, gets his face slapped at the King's party. 14. You've heard this story about 1,000,000 times already, so I won't repeat the details except to say again that I didn't do it. 15. Tracy Hickman, wearing his dress Starfleet uniform, was later jailed and tortured, too, by being spanked. It was a moment to remember forever. The Klingons raised just over $2,000 as a result of their imposition of martial law on the convention. Unless otherwise noted, and denote trademarks owned by TSR Incorporated.
Alright, guys. Absolutely wonderful. I want to thank you all for watching, but just a minute. Oh, Absolutely wonderful. Hello, Star Gamer. I didn't see you there. I see you now. Hello. See you in chat. Hey, cool. Hello. Hello. I got it. I see you there. I don't know if it'll let me reply in chat. It's mostly emotes in chat right now. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. It's making me, yeah, I forgot my settings make me to where I have to, it's complicated. Anyway, it's alright. Alright, well. Give me a second, guys, and we'll be right back. Hey, Star Gamer, I see you there. Give you a shout out. My, yeah, that's what it is. I don't have that on that. I got my Streamlabs open. I just don't have my regular Twitch on. I got my monitor on right now. Okay, we're rolling. Okay, guys. Doing good, doing good. Okay, I've been streaming about 2 hours or so. This is what the new Twitch setup looks like. Looks pretty darn good. Yeah, that's what I'm using. I can stream this over to YouTube if I want to. I don't know. I like YouTube's got a little bit better when I use the camera different. It picks up the camera. This blurs it a little bit too much. So I use this one sparingly. But like I said, it's going to be absolutely wonderful to be able to do the projects with. I've already ran some audio, okay? And as you can see, I've got it pretty much set up how I want to put it, you know. It's not bad at all. Look at there. I mean, it's... Whoa. I don't have to knock my floor there. doing pretty good. Oh, I want to show you all this here before I go to log off. When I bought my rule cyclopedia, and I bought it in PDF form, by the way, I had to get it off of, it was drive-through, I do believe. That it did. Oh, incidentally, I want to try to develop something like Tables for One, but it be DragonLance oriented. So it would, I would call it like Table for One at the end of the last home, and I wanted to do something akin to like that, like Tables for One, but have it Dragonlance centered to where it's stuff specific to Dragonlance. It's a randomizer, is what it is. It's just an oracle, is what it is. You got yes or no questions. Your swamp plants, plains plants, all that. But actually, you could have it tailored to Dragonlance instead. That's what I would like to do. Okay, so certain stuff you could have certain geographical locations. You could roll it up and you could use that. Okay, so that's something to consider. A table for one at the end of the last home. If the guy Michael Stasis, it's a good product. I bought this off a drive-through. I don't want to show all of it because you're supposed to go buy it, but like I said, he had talked about it. I'd seen it on YouTube, and so I went to drive-through and I bought it. So there you go. He is on the Adventures of Conrad by Swords and Solitude on YouTube. That's who this is. Yeah. He also does the Solo Game Master's Guide. Yep. But if you want to check out some of his stuff there, but that's something I'm looking into. I'm going to do a Dragonlance oriented oracle. Okay, let me show you here real quick what I was going to show you. All right, like I said, I bought this off a drive-through. Now this took some doing to print. It wore my printer out trying to get it printed, but I got it printed. Thick ass book. But anyways, what I decided to do, since it's all black and white, right? Here's what I did. I went ahead and took, okay, where's Beholder? I know it's here. I've got some more to color. I'm going to color that Naga here in a little bit. But, hey, that's something I can do on stream. I can color that. I didn't think about that. Shit, I didn't think about that at all. I might do that next stream because this has been on about 2 hours. I need to at least cut an interlude so I can edit, you know. Little odds and ends. If I go to port it to YouTube anyway. Oh, darn it. I never have my shit together right when I need it. Okay. There is a picture of a beholder in here, guys. It's just as soon as I get it. That's one of the pictures that I worked on. What I mean is, I took and I colored it in after I printed it out. So, that's what mine looks like. I colored it in. Looks pretty good, don't it? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it don't. Maybe it looks like shit to some people. But what do you think? Don't look too bad, does it? Looking on my monitor here to see what it looks like here. I like it when it brings out the colors more. There you go. Yeah, guys, it stands out better like that. Okay, there's that. I'm looking here on my monitor here. Okay, let me find the one that I colored into the beholder. I colored in several of these. I mean, like I said, it takes a while to do these pictures. But I did one of the dragon. Shit. As soon as I can find it. It's a hell of a book, guys. Good grief. It's the rules cyclopedia, for F's sake. It'll take a while to color it in. I started on this one, as you can see. See? Started coloring that. Okay. It's still pretty cool. Yep. Alright, and as soon as I can find it. My hands are sticking to the pages. Why are they sticking to my page? Oh, that's because of the stuff I put it together with. That putty. Actually, it's the stuff that you powder it with to stop it from sticking to your fingers, but some of the paper I don't think is all of the same grade. Some of it's nice and some of it's not, but I used what I had. There we go. Ooh, that does look nice, don't it? I colored that in. Pretty good, and I did a little bit of highlighting there, as you can see. Yeah. Dynamic. How's that look? It look all right? Yeah. Okay. What else we got? See if I can find my. But I did quite a bit today. I played some Dragon Strike, or not Dragon Strike, but some Shadow Sorcerer, and I ran 2 or 3 audio bits for DragonLance. Tested out the new camera and the new little scenes or whatever on here. So, here it is. Okay, I'm really proud of that one. I colored that in. Colored in myself. But yeah, that's what I decided to do when I got bored. You know, was take it and start coloring it in. Yeah. That's something to do, you know. You get it printed out, and like I said, you take your colored pencils, go to the doctor, you got a really long car ride, whatever, you can decorate your own player's handbook. Like I said, you still got to do the binding, but I did the binding and stuff and did the laminating. You know, printed it out. I had to buy the print. You got to buy the PDF, but like I said, you know, you can get it cheap and print it out. Now, it does cost something to be able to print. I'm not gonna lie and tell you it don't, because boy, what you have to spend on ink and printer paper. Yeah, that stuff's not cheap. I mean, that's the downside of doing all that stuff printing yourself. Yeah, it's not cheap. Don't let anybody fool you into thinking it's cheap. And a lot of times the quality, black and white stuff's okay, but if you're trying to do like real rich color stuff, the quality varies because it depends on what you're using. I mean, you can get some cardstock. I mean, some printers, you can get it to print it out like this. Now, this is a type of velvet paper, velvet cardstock that you can get for gift ideas. Okay? Let me grab it here. This was that little pen nook that Mom made me for Christmas, and what she did was, but it feels like velvet. It does. It's got almost velvet feel to it. It's really nice. But yeah, she made that for me. And no, none of this stuff is for sale ever. This is private collection. Okay, this goes in an archive when I'm gone. Okay. This is fan made, and this is just private stuff. This is private collection stuff. But like I said, it's still pretty cool. It's where I keep my bookmarkers and stuff, so that's pretty cool. And that was a gift from my mother, and that's pretty darn cool. Yep. Yep. Like a kinder. Taz has run off. Where's Taz? Do you see Taz? I don't see Taz. There's Taz. Like a kinder. He has run off. What you think, guys? yeah, it's pretty cool, huh? Yep. All right, guys. Pretty darn sweet. Close the book on the camera, now, do we? But we are going to close the book on the show, at least as far as the day is concerned. But like I said, guys, thank you all for tuning in. It's been absolutely wonderful. There is more to come. I can 100% assure you of that, Lord willing. Okay? All right. And I just say that colloquially. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. I want to give a shout out to the Star Gamer 1238. Thank you for tuning in as my viewer, especially. That goes a long way. Like I said, guys, I do AD&D 2nd edition stuff. I'm a 2nd edition guy. Okay? That's what I cut my teeth on. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm all about. Yep. Alright, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll try to holler at you a little bit later. This has been Engine Joe. Y'all roll on, and oh, you know what? Hell, I had a damn inning screen right there. Look at that. I'm getting used to it. But there you go, guys. All right, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll get my stuff together eventually. Like I said. I need to get on camera. Yeah, I'll get on camera. Alright, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. This has been Engine Joe. Y'all roll on. Yep. Tally ho and all that goes with it.